welcome you to a discussion that we're going to have between Cathy Sunshine, the author of Synced, and Dr. Morgan Swink, the Executive Director of the Center for Supply Chain Innovation. So the first question we'd like them to have a dialogue in is, what are the market forces that are creating stress on the supply chain?
Thanks, Dave. So there's lots going on, obviously, in the world today that's creating a lot more opportunity as well as stress on the supply chain. Technology change is one of the big ones. There's so much opportunity being created through new technologies, lowered cost of sensors, of robotics, all kinds of things like that. But that also creates stress because managers don't know what technologies to apply, how to apply them, where they should be applied. And then add to that the continued growth of global competition, and this just creates lots of headaches for managers in supply chain. What do you think, Cathy? Can you add to that?
I couldn't agree more. I think it's natural. We all feel it. It's palpable. Mm-hmm. And technology is continuing to move so rapidly to change the behaviors of organizations. What I see is that we have many operating systems that have been built over the years as to how to manage companies in an operational way. But we are bumping into walls with behaviors. How can we move fast enough to integrate information, collaboration, connection, not just internally with each department, which is each department's under more and more stress, but also to respond to the needs of the outside world.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that you talk about in your book a lot is this turning the tables so that now the customer is really in control. And I think technology has created that situation so that we can't, as supply chain folks, we can't dictate what the customer will want or what they'll receive. We have to be much more responsive to them.
How does the supply chain, which has really been built to smooth out operations, to ensure that connections happen quickly and smoothly, now respond to a really fickle customer on the outside whose changing needs may shift dramatically the way the organization has to respond.
And their expectations are just getting higher and higher, right? Yeah.
I see it as a wholesale structural change. Now, we talk about org structure, we talk about org design, but I see it as a little bit higher level, where, most organizations have identified their mission, what they do, and their vision. I think we have to go back a step and talk about what's our identity. And if an organization can anchor back to, what do I do for a living? Why do I do it? Then it goes to the customer. And if it moves to the customer, then I think the organization is designed needs to facilitate a connection between that external customer and everything else inside the organization.
Yeah, great. I couldn't agree more. And I think especially, again, for supply chain managers, this is just so critical. Given the opportunity that technology provides for supply chain to create greater value, not just lower cost, but create greater value. But in order to do that strategically well, they've got to understand this connection with customers and know who their anchor customers or key customers are. So I agree completely.
Supply chain is a natural, because the whole supply chain way of thinking connects with this kind of thinking. It just needs to move itself to the outside since the customer's in control. The question is really, how can supply chain now expand its repertoire to be much more integrated into and sensitized to the shifts in the customer so that the supply chain can move all the way in from the outside.
Yeah, and that's going to require behavioral change. It's going to require probably organizational structural change. It's just going to change thinking. It's going to require change of thinking, again, for supply chain folks. And we try to instill some of that in our coursework here to give this more customer-focused, customer-centric perspective, more strategic view of what supply chain is about. and that's gonna be required for the future.
You know, one of the things that I've tested and worked with is this thing called what I call a service structure, called a ranked advantage design. But the service structure is more a facilitator. It's a way to describe a container of activity. So if the organization is a container, how should be structured to really support the demand chain from the customer into the organization, so that the accountabilities to service that customer, both internally and externally, can be lined up. And it's a real shift in thinking, but it changes an organization's dynamic and its culture, because now people are solving to the issue of service. You know, it's this wholesale direction related to how do we connect with the needs of that customer the most smoothly and accurately, even though it changes.
Well, on the supply chain side, and more generally business, we all talk about the Amazon effect all the time. Amazon has just dramatically changed the way that customers view interactions with service providers or businesses, and they've raised the bar on a number of different dimensions. And as we talk with managers, we hear this again and again and again, that it's not just in the business to consumer space, but actually in the business to business space. This raising the bar in terms of expectations on delivery, on service, on ease of interaction, ease of transactions has really changed the way things operate. And then Uber, of course, the whole model around on-demand services and on-demand capacity, that is beginning to be fleshed out in just innumerable ways, again, in the B2C space, but also in the B2B space, in terms of how companies are managing their assets and managing their capacity. Do you agree?
No, I totally agree. And we're both consumers, so we can feel the difference. We know that probably we wouldn't go back to the old taxi times, which I remember, where you have to phone and make an appointment, then you wait, and then you have to figure out the tip, and they're disincented. They were disincented to get there quickly. Well, we have this entire paradigm shift. Again, goes back to what the consumer needs, and now what we expect is, you know, we push a button, they show up, we get in a car, it takes us the fastest route possible because it's natural, and we leave and say goodbye. It's effortless, and anything that removes those those multiple efforts that a customer has to go through is going to win today. It's just going to be smoother. We'll feel more calm. Amazon, we've grown to expect just-in-time books, just-in-time products of any kind. My sister laughs at me now, and she'll ask a question. I'll say, "How do I get that part to the dishwasher?" Well, within 3 minutes, she's made a phone call, and she's gotten it on Amazon, and it comes to my house the next day. And it's a giggle initially, but after a while, it becomes what we expect.
Absolutely.
So, you know, Uber and Amazon are perfect examples of how technology has shifted from a supply chain where you are delivering goods to a customer to a demand chain where the customer says, "Here's what I want, and by the way, I want it now." And because technology has been able to deliver it, we actually expect it from every kind of company, not just a tech company.
Right.
We expect it from our retailer. We expect it from our hairdresser. We expect it from the people that shine our shoes. We don't want to wait in line.
Right.
We actually expect them to know what our mind is, to know what we need, so it anticipates. No, it's a dramatic shift in how organizations have to be designed to deliver on that.
Well, we're constantly reevaluating our curriculum. In the center, is the way that we get input from practicing managers about real-world issues and how those issues should be incorporated into our curriculum. We have lots of interactive experiences for our students and networking events with business partners, and in those ways we try to create dialogues and conversations that bring these issues to fore in our educational experiences.
On the one hand, he was willing to review a book, which wasn't in his normal, supply chain curriculum, and see where the dots connect. And I think that that's where higher education becomes really critical, to see where the different disciplines are intersecting today to deal with this new reality.
So we want to thank Cathy Sunshine, Dr. Morgan Swink for doing this video today, and this has been brought to you by the Center for Supply Chain Innovation at Texas Christian University.